A raging storm. A car stranded on the side of the road. When Jace Hamilton stops to help, the last person he expects to find is Ava, his ex-wife missing for 5 years. But she's not alone, and the secret she carries will change everything. The past is back. Now, what happens next? Before we dive into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from. Sarah Thompson's hands trembled slightly as she smoothed down her well-worn cardigan. The fabric had pilled at the elbows years ago, but it was clean and presentable, the best she could manage for tonight's event. Westfield Academy's annual fundraising gala loomed before her. The converted gymnasium now unrecognizable beneath crystal chandeliers and silk draperies. Parents in designer suits and cocktail dresses flowed through the entrance, their laughter carrying across the courtyard where Sarah stood frozen. "You look beautiful, Mom," Jessica whispered, adjusting her orchestra uniform. At 15, Jessica was all Sarah had in the world. Her brilliant, musical daughter, who'd earned a partial scholarship to this prestigious school, where tuition costs rivaled college. "Thanks, sweetheart." Sarah squeezed Jessica's hand. "I'll be watching from the back. Break a leg." Jessica hurried inside to join her fellow musicians, while Sarah took a deep breath and approached the registration table. "Name?" asked a woman with a perfect blonde updo without looking up. "Sarah Thompson, Jessica's mother." The woman's head snapped up, eyes narrowing slightly. "Cassandra Pierce, the PTA president, whose husband's name adorned the school's new science wing." "Oh, the scholarship parent." Her voice carried just enough for nearby attendees to turn. "I don't see your RSVP." Sarah pulled the crumpled invitation from her purse. "I sent it back 3 weeks ago." Cassandra inspected it with raised eyebrows. "Well, you're not on my list, but I suppose we can make an exception." She extended a manicured hand. "The donation minimum is still expected. We're trying to save the school after all." Sarah felt her cheeks burn as she handed over an envelope containing $100, a significant portion of her monthly discretionary income from the small used bookstore she owned. Cassandra opened it, her expression souring. "This is quaint." She glanced at the nearby couples who'd each contributed thousands. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the public school fundraisers. They're more accommodating to limited budgets." Several nearby parents snickered. Headmaster Richardson, a tall man with kind eyes, approached with concern, but remained silent as Cassandra continued. "The donation board is over there." She pointed to an enormous display with gold, silver, and bronze plaques. "We're recognizing contributors by tier. Platinum is $25,000 and up." Her lips curled into a smile. "I'm afraid we don't have a copper tier." More laughter followed. Sarah stood with quiet dignity. "My daughter loves this school. I'm here to support her and the institution that's giving her opportunities." "How touching," Cassandra replied. "Well, enjoy the refreshments. At least you're getting your money's worth in canapes." Sarah found a seat in the back row, willing herself invisible as wealthy parents networked around her. A distinguished older woman with silver hair took the empty chair beside her. "Don't mind Cassandra," she said. "She forgets most of us weren't born with silver spoons in our mouths." "I'm Eleanor Winthrop, the music director," she continued. "Your Jessica is extraordinarily talented." "Thank you." Sarah's tension eased slightly. "She practices constantly. It shows. That's why I recommended her for the scholarship." Eleanor lowered her voice. "Between us, this place needs more students like Jessica, and fewer entitled children who expect A's for minimal effort." The lights dimmed before Sarah could respond. Headmaster Richardson took the stage, his expression grave. As many of you know, Westfield faces unprecedented financial challenges this year. Tonight is critical for our future. The Academy needs to raise $1.2 million to prevent cutting our music and arts programs entirely. Sarah's stomach tightened. Jessica lived for orchestra. It was her ticket to college scholarships. The thermometer display showed they'd raised only $780,000 so far, well short of their goal, despite the room full of wealth. We'll now have a short performance from our award-winning orchestra, Richardson announced. The student musicians filed onto the stage. Jessica, clutching her violin, seemed small among her peers, dressed in identical uniforms. Yet when she raised her instrument, something transformed in her posture. During intermission, Sarah headed to the refreshment table. As she reached for punch, Cassandra appeared with 2 board members. And then I told him, if he can't afford the class trip, perhaps they should reconsider their priorities, Cassandra was saying. She stopped abruptly upon seeing Sarah. Well, speaking of priorities, Mrs. Thompson, isn't it? Asked a man in an expensive suit. Which family do you represent? I'm Jessica Thompson's mother, Sarah replied. Thompson? Don't recognize the name. New money? He asked. Cassandra smirked. Not exactly money at all, Richard. Jessica's on scholarship. Richard's eyebrows rose. Ah, how? Progressive of the school. Are you enjoying the gala? The other board member asked, her tone suggesting Sarah was experiencing something exotic. Yes, thank you. The orchestra was wonderful. Indeed, Cassandra interjected. Though some of us contribute more than just attendance. The Platinum Donor Reception is starting in the library. Richard, Margot, shall we? As they walked away, Sarah overheard Cassandra. Really, it's becoming a charity case around here. Next, they'll be letting in the public school riffraff. Sarah's cheeks burned as she retreated to a corner. Through the crowd, she spotted Jessica looking for her, eyes scanning the sea of wealthy parents. With forced composure, Sarah waved, determined not to let her daughter see her humiliation. The evening progressed, with speeches from various board members about Westfield's prestigious history and uncertain future. Sarah watched from her corner as Jessica rejoined the orchestra for the final performance of the night. And now, Headmaster Richardson announced, our students will perform Vivaldi's Winter with first chair violin by Jessica Thompson. Sarah sat up straighter, pride momentarily overwhelming her discomfort. Jessica stepped forward, her posture confident, despite being the youngest first chair in school history. As the music swelled, Cassandra slid into the seat beside Sarah. Your daughter plays well, she said, her tone suggesting surprise, though I hear she struggles in calculus. Not everyone is academically suited for Westfield's rigor. Sarah kept her eyes on Jessica. She's maintaining a 3.8 GPA while practicing 4 hours daily. Admirable effort. Cassandra examined her manicure. Though I wonder if she'll continue next year. With the scholarship fund depleting, many partial recipients might need to reconsider their options. Sarah's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Well, Cassandra leaned closer. The board is prioritizing full-paying families during this financial crisis. It's simply practical. My husband says, Excuse me, interrupted Eleanor, appearing suddenly. Sarah, Headmaster Richardson would like a word after the performance. Cassandra's eyes narrowed. Whatever for? School business, Eleanor replied curtly before guiding Sarah away. Ignore her, Eleanor whispered. The scholarship fund is separate from operational costs. As the orchestra finished to thunderous applause, Sarah made her way toward the headmaster's office, passing the donation thermometer, still showing their substantial shortfall. Richardson was waiting outside his door. Expression unreadable. Mrs. Thompson, thank you for coming. There's something important we need to discuss about the school's future and your role in it. Sarah's throat tightened. Had Jessica's scholarship been revoked already? I understand if the tuition increase is impossible, she began. But Jessica, Richardson held up his hand. You misunderstand. Please step into my office. What I'm about to share must remain confidential for now. Inside Richardson's office, Sarah perched on the edge of a leather chair, hands clasped tightly. Mrs. Thompson, for 5 years, Westfield has received substantial anonymous donations earmarked specifically for our scholarship program and arts funding. Sarah swallowed hard, but remained silent. Our benefactor has been exceedingly modest, Richardson continued. They've refused recognition, board positions, or naming rights. But tonight, given our crisis, they've agreed to reveal themselves to help inspire others. He leaned forward. They're matching all donations dollar for dollar and covering our remaining shortfall. That's nearly $500,000. Sarah nodded politely. That's wonderful news, Headmaster. But I'm not sure why you're telling me this. Richardson smiled gently. Because our records indicate the funds come from a trust managed by Wilson and Barnes, the same firm that handles your financial matters. The color drained from Sarah's face. How did you... Eleanor recognized your late uncle's name on some paperwork. Samuel Thompson, the tech pioneer who revolutionized semiconductor manufacturing. Your uncle? Sarah's shoulders slumped. Yes, he lived simply his whole life. Nobody knew his worth until he passed 5 years ago. Leaving everything to his only living relative, Richardson finished softly. I never changed my lifestyle, Sarah whispered. The bookstore was my dream, long before the inheritance. And Jessica, I wanted her to earn her place here, not buy it. Richardson nodded. An admirable philosophy. But tonight, we need a miracle, and you're it. Would you consider revealing yourself as our benefactor during the closing remarks? Sarah stared at her worn shoes beside his polished Oxfords. What about Cassandra and the others who've treated us like charity cases? Sometimes the most powerful lesson is a humble one, Richardson replied. Your generosity speaks volumes about your character. Perhaps it's time others heard it. Sarah took a steadying breath as she followed Richardson back into the gymnasium. The crowd had grown restless, waiting for the final announcements. Champagne glasses emptying as whispers about the school's financial fate circulated. Ladies and gentlemen, Richardson called, tapping the microphone. As you know, we've been blessed with an anonymous donor who pledged to match all contributions tonight. Cassandra straightened her designer dress near the stage, clearly expecting to be acknowledged alongside one of her wealthy friends. I've just received confirmation that our benefactor is actually here with us and has decided to reveal their identity. A murmur swept through the crowd as everyone looked around at the usual suspects, tech entrepreneurs and real estate moguls who regularly supported the school. This person has donated consistently over the past 5 years, funding our science lab, library renovation, and scholarship program. Tonight, they've agreed to not only match your donations, but to cover our remaining goal entirely. Jessica, still holding her violin at the edge of the stage, looked as confused as everyone else. "Miss Sarah Thompson, would you please join me?" A shocked silence fell over the gymnasium. Sarah, heart pounding, slowly made her way forward as whispers erupted around her. Jessica's mouth fell open in astonishment. Cassandra's face drained of color as Sarah approached the stage. Richard and Margot exchanged stunned glances. Ms. Thompson inherited a substantial estate from her late uncle, a tech pioneer who valued education but lived modestly, Richardson explained. Rather than changing her lifestyle, she's quietly donated millions to causes she believes in, including our school where her daughter thrives. She requested anonymity until tonight. Sarah reached the microphone, her simple cardigan and modest slacks now the center of attention in a room full of designer clothes. "Music has a profound power," Richardson said. "It can elevate us beyond our circumstances when we're given the opportunity to learn it." Sarah adjusted the microphone. "I was fortunate to have an uncle who believed in me. When I inherited his estate, I promised to use it to create opportunities for others, not to change who I am." She glanced at Jessica, whose eyes had filled with tears. "My daughter earned her place here through talent and hard work. I've kept my wealth private because I wanted her to develop character, not entitlement." Cassandra shifted uncomfortably, her fingers twisting her diamond bracelet. "Tonight," Sarah continued, "I'm covering the remaining $420,000 needed, but with one condition, that we establish a parent committee focused on making our community more inclusive to families of all backgrounds." The crowd erupted in applause, all except Cassandra, who stared at her clipboard in frozen silence. "We can be both excellent and accessible," Sarah said. "Westfield shouldn't just be for those born into privilege, but for every child willing to work for their education." Jessica abandoned protocol, rushing forward to embrace her mother as thunderous applause filled the gymnasium. People surged forward once Sarah left the stage. Parents who had ignored her all evening now clamored for introductions. Business cards appeared from every direction. "Mrs. Thompson," called Richard, the board member, "we should discuss your joining the board immediately." Sarah held up her hand. "Perhaps after we form the inclusivity committee." She spotted Cassandra standing alone, her social circle suddenly gravitating toward Sarah instead. Headmaster Richardson approached Cassandra. "Ms. Pierce, perhaps you'd like to be the first volunteer for our new inclusivity committee. I believe you might gain valuable perspective." As Sarah and Jessica drove home that night, the car filled with an unusual silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jessica finally asked, her violin case clutched tightly in her lap. "Would you have practiced 4 hours daily if you knew we could afford private lessons? Would you have worked as hard for your grades?" Jessica considered this. "But everyone treated you so badly. And now we know who they really are," Sarah replied. "Money doesn't build character. Handling its absence does." The following Monday, whispers followed them through Westfield's hallways. Students who had never acknowledged Jessica suddenly offered friendship. Teachers who had been professionally cordial became overtly solicitous. Sarah arrived to pick up Jessica after school, still driving their reliable 10-year-old sedan. Cassandra Pierce intercepted her in the parking lot. "Sarah," she called, her voice unnaturally bright. "I've been thinking about the inclusivity committee. I have some wonderful ideas." Sarah nodded politely. "I'm glad to hear that, Cassandra. Perhaps we could discuss them over lunch?" "My treat, of course." Cassandra's smile strained at the edges. "Actually, I need to get back to the bookstore," Sarah replied. "But you're welcome to email your thoughts to Headmaster Richardson." Cassandra's smile faltered. Of course. I just thought, after Saturday, you might want to join our social circle. The benefit for Children's Hospital is next month. You'd be perfect as honorary chair. I prefer to remain behind the scenes, Sarah said gently, but I'll certainly make a donation. As Jessica approached, Sarah saw something new in her daughter's expression, a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. Mom, Miss Winthrop wants me to audition for the state competition. She thinks I could qualify for nationals. Jessica rushed over to hug her mother. Whispers rippled through the parking lot as students watched the interaction between Sarah, Jessica, and the infamous Cassandra Pierce. That's wonderful news, honey, Sarah said, genuinely proud. Cassandra cleared her throat. Jessica has remarkable talent. I've always said so. Sarah simply nodded, remembering quite different comments from just days before. Well, we should go, Sarah said. Good luck with the committee, Cassandra. 6 months later, Sarah sat in the audience of the National Youth Symphony Competition, watching Jessica take the stage. The past months had brought significant changes to Westfield Academy. The Inclusivity Committee, reluctantly chaired by Cassandra, had actually made progress. New scholarship funds opened doors for talented students regardless of background. The atmosphere had shifted subtly, but meaningfully. Sarah still drove the same car and ran her beloved bookstore. She'd expanded the children's reading area and started a music literacy program, but otherwise maintained her modest lifestyle. Jessica played the final notes of her piece, the audience erupting in applause. 4 judges nodded appreciatively, scribbling notes. "She's magnificent," whispered Eleanor, seated beside Sarah. And to think some people believed she didn't belong at Westfield. Later that evening, as Jessica clutched her first-place medal, a reporter approached. "Miss Thompson, how does it feel to have a national champion daughter?" Before Sarah could answer, Jessica spoke. "My mom taught me that true worth isn't about what you have, but what you give. This medal represents hard work, not privilege." Sarah smiled, tears welling in her eyes. No inheritance could have purchased this moment of genuine pride. As they walked to their car, Jessica spotted Cassandra across the parking lot, having attended with her own daughter, who'd placed 4th. "Should we invite them to celebrate with us?" Jessica asked. Sarah considered the question. "Yes," she said finally, "because real change happens one conversation at a time." That night, Jessica placed her medal on their modest mantel beside a photograph of her grandfather, a man she'd never met, but whose legacy had shaped her life in unexpected ways. "I get it now," she said quietly. "Why you never told me about the money." Sarah looked up from her book. "What do you understand? You wanted me to know my real value." Jessica touched the medal. "This means something because I earned it." Sarah nodded. "Success means more when it comes from within rather than from your bank account." Jessica sat beside her mother. "The funny thing is, some kids at school think I'm different now, like I changed when everyone found out we're wealthy." "And did you?" "No, I'm still just me, but I see people differently now, who stayed the same and who suddenly wanted to be my friend." Sarah closed her book. That's a valuable lesson most people never learn. A notification appeared on Sarah's phone, an email from Westfield's admissions office announcing 12 new scholarship students joining next semester. "Look," Sarah showed Jessica, "this is the real victory. Our Inclusivity Committee actually worked." Jessica marveled. "Sometimes the greatest gifts we can give are opportunities for others." Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. "Your grandfather understood that. He lived modestly despite his success because he measured wealth by impact, not accumulation. Like you," Jessica observed. "I'm just trying to honor his example." Sarah smiled. The true measure of success isn't what you have, but what you do with it. Outside their window, snow began to fall, coating Westfield in a clean white blanket, erasing the visible boundaries between the grand estates and modest homes, if only temporarily. True worth can't be measured in dollars, but in character. Sometimes the quietest among us carry the greatest capacity for impact, not through words, but through actions that speak volumes about who they truly are.